Hey, welcome back to the channel. I'm Probably Awake, and today I want to show you how to make this bass. So all it is just a Serum bass with some post-processing. I'm going to leave this whole project in the description below, so if you don't care about watching this and just want the bass, download the Ableton project file. Otherwise, keep on watching and you'll learn how I did it. So I'm going to go ahead and go into my first Serum, and there's no actual effects on the track directly after, so it sounds pretty similar right from the get-go. However, there are some effects on the group, but we'll get into that directly after we're done going through the patch. So for this patch, for oscillator A, we're using acid, we're using unison, a little bit of detune, and then the wavetable position and bend plus is both automated by the LFO, and we'll get into that in a second. For oscillator B, we're using this Badlands oscillator. If you don't have this oscillator, just use something that is similar that has a lot of notches in it. You could use something like the 303 or the 4088 right here with analog. It's going to have a similar result. For acid, we have the wavetable modulating, we have bend plus, which is modulating, we have the level modulating as well, but not all the way up. This bass is rather loud, so we wanted the sub to cut through, even though I am EQing that out after the fact, but the patch comes with a sub if you like to use built-in subs. For the second oscillator, we're modulating our wavetable position, we're FMing from A, and then we have the level getting modulated as well. Usually if you're FMing, you're going to have one of the oscillators off. I like how this added the layer, so I left it here. For my filter, I'm using the low filter, having the cutoff come all the way up, using a little bit of drive, have the resonance up a tad just for some brightness. Speaking of brightness, we're using the bright white noise filter. We're using the level going about halfway up, and then our sub, we're just using the saw wave sub, having the level go all the way up. Again, we are not using that, we're EQing it out. For our LFO, we're just having this one big pattern that's going to sound like this. We do have a modulator on the rate, so if you wanted to make it faster, you could do that if you wanted. Of course, mess around with this shape to make it fit your song. And then for our modulator tab here, we just have this getting modulated from the wavetable position, the bend plus, the wavetable position for oscillator B, and the FM. Just a little bit of variation that you can add there. Getting into our effects, these are really where most of the grit of the sound is going to come from. If we click on our LFO, we can see what we're modulating here. So we have our hyper down, we have our dimension going up about, say, 11 o'clock. For our distortion, again, we're using this diode at the post setting. Not modulating anything here, but mess around with the drive depending on the oscillator or wavetables that you choose. That way the sound is loud to your liking. For chorus, we're just using a little bit. This is just adding a little bit extra on top of the sound, a little bit of harmonics. And then for our compressor, we're using the multiband compressor with the gain about 9 o'clock. We turned our release up, our attack all the way down, our ratio and threshold are in the middle. For our EQ, we're just EQing out the low end that's coming out from the sound. That way we do not have to mess around with having conflicting subs from the oscillators as well as the sub. And then I just boosted the high end a little bit. And then to round out the sound, we're just using this low filter at the end. That way the sound is cleaned up and there's no kind of extra feedback after or before the sound. Getting into Ableton and figuring out what we're doing for effects, we have my effect rack here, which again, if you just download the Ableton project file, you can have all of this without having to go through it. But we just have an EQ that's taking out everything below 160 Hertz. We have vocoder set at modulator, which is the dry wet is about 62%. Our formant is about -2 octaves, and then our depth is down a little bit. For Portal, we're just using the Growler Portal preset. I really like this preset. It just adds a little bit. If you didn't use it, it's not going to be the end of the world if you don't have it, but you can add something like a flanger, a phaser, a chorus, something that's going to add a little bit of tonality to your sound. After that, we're using Camel Crusher, but again, use any type of distortion you want. This is just the stock preset that comes with it. My interface doesn't load when I open up Camel Crusher, so I just use what this is, and then I mess around with the effects in here if need be. I'm using some OTT after that with the settings for the high at about 2.6 decibels and then the mid 2.9. The low end is taken out, we don't need that. And then we're just using some sidechain here. So that's the gist of the sound. If we take off the effects, you can see if I solo the sound, this is what it sounds like without effects and with effects. So it just adds a little bit more harmonics to it, makes it sound a little bit better. So that's the whole sound. If you like this tutorial, leave a comment and let me know that you like these types of things, and I'll keep making them. But again, that Ableton project file is below. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again in the next one. 2 to the 3 like this.